Hello and welcome back to another episode of What's Happening in the Real Estate Market. What do you want to know Wednesdays? I'm Kathia Green, your local South Florida realtor, and I've got my handy dandy partner in crime, Aileen Garcia. Eileen.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to our Wednesday edition that we do once a month. And today we're actually joined by Gamez. Sorry about that. I almost butchered your last name. Tania works for, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Awesome. Thank you so much, ladies, for having me. This is amazing what you're doing on Wednesdays, giving out information, to potential buyers out there so they could be more informed when they are ready to purchase. My name is Tania Gamez. I am one of the franchise owners for Peony Insurance, and I'm here in Westchester in Miami.
Very nice. Thank you. Thank you, Tanya, for joining us today. It's nice to have a special guest. It's just been the two of us, the two amigos, these last few
Yeah.
series. So
Now we're the three amigos.
now
Now
we're
we're
the
the
three
three
amigos.
amigos.
Yes, yes. We're Charlie's Angels.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Oh, I like that one better. Yes. Okay. I'll take that.
Yeah. So we're gonna talk insurance today. So I'm gonna throw out a couple of nightmare situations, and we can kind of have a chat about it. And then you can also bring, your perspective as to kind of how you see deals coming to you. The same thing, Eileen, and how insurance can make a deal or break a deal. So that's kind of where we are.
Absolutely.
So here in the South Florida market, what I've been experiencing is the homes are older,
Hmm.
the roof is older. The
Hmm.
roofs are expensive to repair and replace, thousands of dollars, the tens of thousands of dollars. So most sellers are like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna sell the house the way that it is. Mr. Buyer, that's your problem. Then, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer try to buy the house, and then we get stopped because now we can't get insurance on the house
Hmm.
because of the age of the roof. I mean, there's age a few other things too, but mostly the roof. Or the in premium is a lot higher until they replace that roof. And
Yeah.
then that higher insurance premium kind of takes them out of their monthly budget. So those are the kinds of challenges, one of them. So what would you tell buyers out there or even sellers as to let's reverse that, and maybe we need to re-educate sellers on what they can do to help get their homes sold quicker with these older roof coverings.
Right, absolutely. So roofs are an issue, especially when they're coming of age and these insurances do not want to cover it, right? So what we have come across is that if we get the 4 point and we see the roof age and we're putting all that into the carriers, some carriers will take on that risk, but for a very high premium. Other insurance carriers, I'll give you like Citizens, okay, which is the state insurance. A lot of insurance agencies don't even want to take this risk, but sometimes if you put a home with a bad roof through Citizens, Citizens might take this on. The underwriter might allow it if they have a roofing contract with it, right? Stating that they're
Mm,
going to change the roof 30 days after the closing. But here's the thing. This is what I tell people. Listen closely. Just because you got that insurance, right? That says, okay, now if and I'm just going to give numbers out there. So let's say the one that did not want to take on that risk and is kind of like, okay, we'll do this, but for 18,000, right? Let's pretend because it's a bad roof. And then Citizens came on and says, okay, we'll give you 30 days from your closing date on to change that roof. We'll give it to you for 4,000, right? But there's no going around insurances. There is no sweet talking them. There is none of that, right? If that 30-day comes and you didn't start the roof or finish it, I promise you,
they
Citizens
drop you.
will drop you, okay? And go and the mortgage will put that force placed insurance, which is practically that 18,000. So now that's your new mortgage payment. So if you're going to close and know that it's a bad roof, you have to know that you are able to change that roof within 30 days. It's I've seen it happen where all of a sudden they have closed on it, 30 days are approaching and they're like, I can't get financed for it. I can't pay it. I can't do all that kind of stuff. Well, now you're in a home that you are about to, default on because you cannot pay that. There is no going around it.
So
So,
let me ask you this though, with that 30 days, because here in South Florida, a lot of these cities, one, you have to have HOA approval on the
right.
on the roofing change, and then the city permits. It's not going to get done in 30 days. So let's say on day one of closing, they submit everything, all the paperwork to HOA, to their city, their contractor submits for permitting and things like that. And then day 31, day 40, and all those things, those are up out of their control. As long as they show that it's in the system, or insurance just doesn't care and they're just going to
A-
drop them.
As long as it's somewhat in the system, like that, it has to be reasonable. Like it's starting on day one, like it's starting, it's, okay, we'll give you a 10-day, 15-day extension. Roofs are being done quickly here in South Florida. They are, okay? They are. I promise you, with the right contractors, they are being completed
But it's
quickly.
not the contractors. I think it's the city too, because the city permits and your HOAs. A lot
No,
of these
no,
communities
but
have the
HOA,
HOAs.
well, we know HOAs delay a lot of things.
Yeah.
HOA delays financing. HOA,
Yeah, they delay
you,
everything.
yeah, yeah, you think that they work for you as a homeowner, that's what you're doing. And when it goes to selling and or doing anything to your home, that's when you're like, hey. But I mean, with a reasonable amount, like very slim, they are happening. The problem has been honestly, where they close on that home and they're like, all of a sudden they go try to get financed with, the roofing company because they don't have that extra money, and they can't get financed because, the it just doesn't go through. Those type of things. Then it's just not going to happen. That is
Yeah,
really where you're, oh, I can't do it. The insurance
yeah,
doesn't care. They're going to drop you,
yeah.
right?
And so
So,
now, even talking about that financing, I just had a thought of where they can't get financing for it, but they have like the PACE programs and things like that, but that's
why,
based on
yeah,
equity. So if
yeah,
you're not buying
no,
your house with
can't,
equity,
can't do
you
it.
can't even,
Right.
yeah. So those are all things that have to be
The
in
other
advance
issue,
figured out before. Yeah, it's tough.
the
Don't
other
get into
issue
a
with the
home.
PACE program is that if you do qualify for it,
Yep.
it is a great program if you
Mhm.
do qualify for it, but at the end of the day, you got to keep in mind, because then I get the call. My taxes went up. My mortgage payment went up. No, your mortgage payment didn't go up. Your taxes went up.
Yeah,
I'll
that
go into the
white,
system
green, and
and
all
it's
that.
right there. It says it pays white, green, and that affects your mortgage payment. If you have your taxes and insurance included in your mortgage payment, that will make your mortgage payment go. So you're resolving one issue, which is the roof
Creating
issue,
another one.
but you're creating another issue.
hmm And so I'm very straightforward when somebody's buying a home, and I'm like, can you really afford to fix this roof? Don't try to just buy this home and then say, we'll figure it out. That is a big headache. And so it's happened quite a few times. They've called. There's only so much I could do as an agent, but because there's no telling citizens anything. So the answer to your question, can you get insurance if the home, has a bad roof? Okay. You can if it goes to underwriting, especially with citizens, they give those breaks, and they go ahead and they insure it for a certain amount of time. Or you could get a higher premium, right? And just they do give you a longer period of time to fix, but you are paying that higher premium. And if you are worried that you cannot get that roof fixed in 30 days, and
Buy a different house.
you are like paying what your mortgage payment is like at the top of what you are about to pay, and it cannot be not a dollar more, then I suggest you don't get into this, because that forced place insurance will be as high as that other premium. So
Yeah.
that is definitely what I say about homes. You know, Sellers, this is one of the things. They just want to get out of that property. Can they fix the roof and finance some roofing companies, right, where they pay them at closing? There's a lot of roofing companies that will take this on, that they get paid at closing, right? But the thing is, do sellers really want to take on this risk, right? You know what I mean? Do they really
Yeah.
want to go ahead and do it? They want to get the most bang out of their buck and just kind of like you figure it out type of thing.
Yeah.
So,
So let me ask you this on the seller side. Okay, I'm a homeowner. I've got a 30-year-old roof, but I'm already insured. So at what point does insurance reach out to the seller and say, hey, your premium's going up because your roof is old?
well, okay, I'm glad you asked that. If I am a seller, it depends on the carrier, right? Sometimes, like if somebody contacts me with a renewal, right, because it's gone up slightly, like they feel like it's higher, right? And I look at it and I look at the age of the roof, they have not replaced it, they have not done anything. And if I were to put that through another carrier, it will spike up, especially they'll go do the inspection and all that kind of stuff. Then I'm kind of like, hey, sit still and be quiet
Yeah. Don't raise
until,
any flags.
right, don't don't raise any flags, right? And remember one thing, your insurance is not a home warranty, okay? That is one thing that a lot of homeowners don't understand, right? They're like, my roof is leaking. And I'm like, well, there has been no peril in the last couple of years. There's no tornado, no tropical storm, no hurricane, no anything to cause this roof leak to happen. That means that you are basically going to call the insurance and say, hey, my roof is old. It's no good and I need to replace it. And the insurance is going to say, well, congratulations, go ahead and replace that because we're not responsible for it. If you realize insurance is only for perils, right? Meaning something that caused this to happen, not just because it's old, right? And so we hear that a lot. And a lot of times they call in the insurance companies and the insurance companies won't even say it over the phone, right? Like they'll have an inspector go out, they'll take pictures, they document all these wonderful things that you just invited them into your home for. And then they're like, okay, great, thanks. We have all the documentation. By the way, if you don't replace your roof in 30 days, we're going to drop you. So you just woke up the beast type of thing.
Yeah.
So that's what I say. So if you do have a bad roof and you have not replaced it and the insurance has not told you anything, sit tight and be quiet. Look for roofers and all that, get that financing in order for the moment that it does, because it will happen eventually. But yeah, so that's my little information for sellers that have a roofs over 25 years. It comes.
25 years. Okay, so another question is when we're looking at different premiums, right? Why such a disparity between the
Okay.
18,000 and a 4,000?
Okay.
What is it that that carriers are looking at to make such a difference? And this is just for us to educate,
Mhm.
homeowners.
So, and I'm very big on not just giving quotes, right? I'm a very people person in conversation, right? I want to make sure that you understand what you're covered for. A lot of times people just want to see the cheapest quotes. They're like, just give me this one, right? The cheapest quote. But cheaper is not always better. Like you said, cheaper is not always better because you're not fully covered at the time of an incident, right? And it goes more for homes. People want to be covered more for autos than they do for homes. They just want the cheapest quote. Okay. So when you're driving an auto, you're like, okay, am I covered for, car rental? Am I covered for roadside assistance? Like they want to know all that for auto. In homes, they don't know if they're covered for, let's say, water caps, right? A lot of times, the premium with the lowest amount, we're just talking about premiums, right? So the one with the lowest amount, that insurance carrier has a $10,000 water cap. What does that mean? Let's say you got home from work and your water heater busted from the bottom because it was rusted, right? And all of a sudden you walk in, you open that door, and a flood of water comes out, right? Now it's gotten under your tile. It might have gone to your carpets, your drywall, all that kind of stuff. There's plenty of I'm going to tell you that I think 90% of people watching this, if they go to their actual deck page, right, their insurance policy, they're going to see they only have a 10,000 water cap. That means that the insurance is only going to pay you up to $10,000 to fix this issue. Okay. I don't know, but I'm going to tell you, it's not going to cost $10,000 to fix that. It is
Nope.
going to cost, just in labor alone, it's going to be more than
Yeah.
10,000 to fix tile,
Yeah.
drywall,
Just
carpeting.
to just to come in and have the what do you call those mitigators come in and
Yeah. Yeah.
dry it is gonna
Right.
be 10K.
Right.
Then you got the
So,
mold and the replacement and the this and
yeah.
the yeah.
So you're
Yeah.
going to have a huge headache just only with that. Okay. Then there's other insurance companies that don't have that 10,000 water cap that it's a full amount, right? So whatever happens, you give them the bill and that's it, right? Um, and so that premium might be a little bit more. That might be, it is a little bit more, right? They're taking on more risk. That's all it is. It's how much risk am I taking on? And also the carrier, how fast do they pay, right? Because you don't want to be living there with drywall missing from your house, with the tile all broken up because, it popped. When water gets under the tile, it pops, it just busts. All these type of things, mold in your house, growing and all that kind of stuff. And then you're fighting with the insurance carrier, and then they're not doing anything. Then you got to get an attorney to try to fight
Hmm.
for you. They're charging. You're going to come out like with $1,000 or whatever out of this, or 2 years later, something. So that is one of the things that honestly, if I could say anything to all of Florida, right, is honestly review your policy, right? In all these case scenarios of what if scenarios, right? So yeah, what if my AC breaks? What if my water heater breaks, right? What happens in those scenarios? Am I covered or am I not covered? What happens if a hurricane happens? How fast are you to pay this, right? Like, how fast are you going to pay for my roof to get fixed or whatnot? So when you're driving in South Florida after a hurricane and you see some people are like doing all these roofs new and all this kind of stuff, and other people just sitting and waiting, they do have different insurance carriers. Some are like, hey, go send them that check and pay it. Others are like, and it goes through litigation, it goes through all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Same way you look at auto, you need to look at home and see what you're covered by. So cheaper is not always better on these premium wise, and
And
just
then,
review.
I agree with that statement, but then it also there's an affordability
Oh,
factor.
yeah. Oh, there you go. I
So
know.
you have to, I mean, you get the best coverage you can based on what's in your pocket. I
But
mean,
but but you know, but that's what I'm saying. It's the same as auto, right? If you're driving around with PIP, right, which is the basic insurance, because you know that that's all you could afford, right? But you know what you're covered for, right? You know what's going to happen. But I'm going to tell you, 90% of South Florida, it is affordability, but they also don't know
they don't know.
what they're covered for or if the insurance carrier is going to pay them or not. So yes, so I agree with you 100% about affordability, but I do believe that there's kind of a naiveness,
Yeah.
right? And not being educated on the homeowners specific on that policy and coverage.
So let's elaborate on that a little bit. So I'm a brand new, let's say I've been a renter all my life.
Mhm.
I'm now a homeowner and I'm looking at different policies for home insurance.
Yes.
What are the key things that they should be looking at? Like, I'm not going to say like a priority, this is the most important kind of ranking, but for someone that didn't have to have homeowners insurance and reading those policies and knowing what those coverages mean, let's educate these new homeowners coming into the market as to what they should be looking for when they are shopping for insurance,
Absolutely. So if you're a new
especially
home,
in South Florida.
yeah, if you're a new homeowner, uh, exactly kind of what I was telling you is what I'm going to talk to you about, right? I'm going to show you myself a couple of different premiums, and I'm going to tell you about the insurance carrier, right? And how fast they're going to pay and what they cover compared to the other ones that are not covered. I'm going to ask you what's important to you to be covered, what scenarios. I'll go over these scenarios that I just spoke to you about, right? And make sure that we're within budget, right? So, okay, you're going to pick and choose, but as soon as you can afford, let's say the water cap, to have unlimited coverage, don't forget, come back to me. We're gonna look at that and we're gonna get you covered. Just because your house is not in a flood zone, right? Are you really want to not be covered in case water comes in from the ground because of rain, right? Because guess what? Your homeowner's policy does not cover for water that has entered your home from that front door from the bottom, right? So if your baseboards, and the molding on the floor and all that, and your carpets or tiles are wet, and there was no entryway from the roof, your homeowners will not cover that. So how important is it for you to have flood coverage, even if you're not in a flood zone, even if you're about to buy the home and your mortgage company does not require you to have this flood, but for $500 to $700 a year, right? You're gonna have peace of mind to make sure that any water that just came up, right, is you're protected.
Mhm.
You could just call. So, and that happened to Tampa. Remember the hurricane that happened over there in the Tampa area? Well, a lot of denials happen because, again, it's not being educated on the homeowner's policy where they were calling their carriers and saying, calling Florida Peninsula, calling Citizens, calling all of them and saying, hey, I need you to come out here. This hurricane, look what happened, da, da, da. And the carrier comes out there, the inspector comes out there and goes, oh, I see you had a flood. Look at your drywall. I can see the water came up to here, your baseboard, your carpet, da, da, da. And then they review, right? And they go, there's no water spots, there's no entryways from the roof, from the walls, from anything. So it came from the bottom. You're denied, right? And then everybody's like, well, what do I do? How do I get this fixed? Well, it's fixed out of pocket because you don't have coverage for that, right? So
So hurricane damage has to come from the roof and windows, and flood has to come from the ground.
from the ground,
If water, so hurricane is like a two-part thing. Hurricane comes in, you got all this heavy
wind and
rain,
rain, wind and
and
rain.
the rain sits, and now that rainwater, it's no longer covered under hurricane deductible, it's covered under flood.
Yeah,
Wow, bananas.
yeah. So anything from the top, it has to be the peril, right? The hurricane hits, the winds are lifting up the shingles,
Breaking the windows and
yeah,
coming in that way. But if it's a hurricane water that's been sitting and now enters the home, it's
enters the
con-
home,
it's flood. That's
flood.
crazy.
If there's
Wow.
absolutely no entryway from the attic, right? Because they'll go into the inspection, they get on the roof, they look to see how the shingles are, how oh my goodness, the tiles, are no broken tiles, no lifted tiles, no missing shingles, da, 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 da. The roof is perfect. They kind of go inspect, take pictures. Okay, your roof is perfect. They go into the attic. They feel around with their meters. There's no moisture, nothing going on from up here. They look at your roof because if water has come in, there's those yellow spots and wet
Yeah.
spots that come in, and with the meter will also be moist. So if it did not come from the top, then yes, absolutely, your claim is denied and then you are responsible for everything from the bottom again. And I think that's more than anything of between the water caps, right? Like I told you, if water heater happens, AC, a pipe breaks on the sink, something to that extent, toilet, right? It happens, and it happens when you're on vacation, right? It happens on a long weekend when you're in Disney. You come back to this, right? That's the way the world works, right? And so you've had this water sitting and have accumulated under the tile, and I've seen it, right, where it's accumulated, and you're like, oh, okay, we kind of got this set up, and a year later, right, let's say the tile just pops, and you're kind of trying to figure out what happened. There's moisture under there, and
Underneath.
with all
Yeah.
that, it just boop, one day just popped. And then you got to change this. And if it's an older home that you have to replace the whole tile throughout, right? Like you can't go to, any of these tile places and find this type of tile. You have to replace the whole thing. It's going to be costly. So
Yeah.
I think more of anything, it's that the flood and the water cap that a lot of people are missing. And then when it does happen, they're kind of shocked because they think that an insurance is a one for all, right? Like it's
Yeah.
going to just fix everything. So,
Yeah.
There's another thing that I've noticed too, and this actually personally happened to us. we have mold coverage on our insurance. And
Hmm.
I didn't even know that that was a thing, to be honest with you. But we had a hurricane. I think it was Wilma, if I'm not mistaken. Some one of those. Katrina. No, it was one of the big ones. Irma. There we go. It was Irma.
Yeah.
So when we came back home, the water had come in through the roof, and
Hmm.
we were able to get the mitigation company to come out and do the whole remediation and everything. But they kept asking us, do you have mold coverage on your insurance?
Hmm.
And when I pulled up my declaration page, it was actually on there.
Right there.
So I always look at that, and I always make sure when we renew that that's on there. Is that something common that insurance companies give as part of the, or is that an extra that you
It,
need to
no,
add?
no, it is. It is. And, so
Because living in South Florida, mold is
I,
very easy
yeah,
to. I
no,
mean,
no, it is. It is.
a hurricane, but then I had a
Now,
bathroom that got mold too.
like I said, a lot of times when somebody's buying a home, people want to win the deal, right? So they'll lower this, take this off, not add this, da, 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 da. And they're just presenting you a quote, right? And I don't know if you've seen that. A lot of times it's just a quote, right? Here's one for 2,000, like here's another one for 4,000, all that kind of stuff. So can things be taken off? Can contents be lowered, so you're not covered all completely in
Deductibles
contents and all,
increased.
yeah, all that kind of stuff. So there's a standard policy should cover you for all those basics, right? But now what we've seen, kind of like we said, it's about affordability and it's about winning the policy and showing the
Tanya, define the basics for someone that doesn't know what that means. What should that policy include?
it should include your replacement cost, right? It should match what Citizens has. Citizens is the one that really determines your replacement cost, right? They have a calculator and it really determines it.
And that's
So
replacement of the home.
of the home. So what they are saying, what they are estimating that right now, if they covered you and something were to happen to the home, how much it would be for them to get you right back up to where you are now. Never better, just where you are right now, right? You need to get back. So that means you should have the replacement cost to exactly where you're at, right? So if you have quartz, if you have fancy tile, if you have chandeliers, if you have all this kind of stuff, right? That's where that replacement cost is so important, right? Because if anybody were to lower that, right, two things can happen. Either nobody catches it and you keep that replacement cost, a fire happens, and then you're like, okay, get my up to back. And they're like, but wait, your policy doesn't have that. You have quartz. It had regular kitchen. And you're like, no, I didn't. I had quartz and all that kind of stuff. They're like, no, no, you didn't. So it won't get you back up to really where you were. It was kind of like, getting you the cheaper deal, right? The premium goes based on the replacement cost and other factors. So contents should be enough to replace your furnitures, your clothing, all that. If you needed to leave the home and rent somewhere, should have that coverage on it. Just different things like that. Your water coverage, water cap coverage. Do you want the basic 10,000 or do you want non-cap? That's really like the basics of what you need in case anything happens to you.
So we've been talking about water. Let's talk about the other peril, fire.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I have a friend of mine who their house, it started in the garage and it burned maybe 30-40% of the home.
Yeah.
And they're now actually fighting with their insurance company because they only want to give them, I think, 60% of the value of, like, they don't have enough to rebuild it. So how does that, talk to me about that if on a fire side?
So again, I kind of what I was touching on, right? If you want to be completely covered, right? So you want to make sure that whatever is on there, you want to talk to your agent and say, listen, is my replacement cost at 100% replacement? That means if anything were to happen to my home, a tornado comes, a fire happens, hurricane, anything, will my home be covered for you to repair me 100% cost? at where I'm at. Not more, not less, exactly where I'm at, right? So that's one. If it's lowered, there's an insurance inspector might catch it if they go and say, no, hold on. And then they up the replacement cost because they could tell, like, no, hold on, this policy didn't have this and this and that. It's not gonna be 300,000 to replace this. It's gonna be 450 to replace this, let's say, right? So if the inspector goes out and says, no, this is not the replacement cost, it's this, okay, which happens a lot. That inspector goes back, lets the carrier know, the insurance carrier know, and then boom, your premium goes up. Okay. When your premium goes up, it's not like, oh, let me make a payment, right? Give me a payment plan, or hey,
I
send that
know
bill to.
it.
It's hey, guess what? You
I
owe
need a
us,
$5,000 check.
yeah, right now, or in 30 days, we are going to drop you. So that's where that replacement cost is so important, to make sure that you are covered completely. If
Right.
if in case anything happens, number one, to get you up to where you are right now, and two, that your premium does not go up if an inspector comes. There's no getting away from these carriers. I always say that, right? You might try to play around at the beginning and all that, but there's no duping them after
Yeah.
that, right? So
So
you
as
want
a
to make sure.
homeowner, how do you value? So it's the so you're saying an inspector. I've never had an inspector come to my house to get coverage. So that's kind of throwing me what you're saying there. But as a homeowner, calculating replacement costs, how do they approach that? Like, are you
Just
start kind of
asking,
keeping
just
receipts
no,
or?
talking to your agent and confirming with them, right, that it is at 100% replacement cost.
'Cause that's what I'm asking. So you kind of look at your house and say, you know what, I just redid my kitchen. I've got, European tile or whatever the case may be. It cost me, $10,000 to for this tile. I just put in, like you said, these $20,000 chandeliers. So those are things where, as the homeowner, you're keeping calculations, and then you kind of create a replacement cost that way.
You
Because if
can,
I don't have someone
absolutely.
coming to my house, then
Absolutely.
I've got to be the one to calculate that valuation.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I definitely keep receipts. And especially if you've updated your home, and let's say you've updated it and your policy is not to, doesn't know that your insurance carrier doesn't know that you updated all these things, right? So at the time of renewal, when you're going to look for, different quotes, it is important to say, hey, I updated this tile. I updated, the my kitchen. I updated this, right? So now my kitchen is not from 1980. It's from 2026, with the quartz, with this, Italian tile that I had
Yeah,
imported, and da 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 da. Yeah. So that is important to notify. You should have a really good relationship with your agent. You should.
yeah,
That's all honesty. And a
yeah,
lot of times people don't even know. They're like, let me get my thing. I don't even know where it's at. I don't even know where.
yeah,
But you should always have an open communication, especially when you see the rule. Hey, am I good? Have those questions. And am I up to date with 100% replacement cost? Give me what am I not covered for right now that you would have any suggestion for me, and give me some prices to see if I can add that
right.
to my policy, because maybe I wasn't in that place before, but
Yeah,
maybe financially I am right now. And so you're telling me that flood is 500, 700. You know what? Go ahead and add that. I've seen what happened to Tampa. I want to be covered. Right there might be a time to go ahead
yeah,
and add that. So always have an open line of communication with the agent and look at all
yeah.
your options. Like, have an actual
Have
conversation,
an actual conversation.
and
So we've been
actually like
talking about like
dissect.
what makes it go higher. Your higher premium. What makes it
Mhm.
lower? So I just got impact windows put in my house. So then the question is, of course, you call your
Yeah,
agent and say, "Hey, I've got impact windows now. I should be able to get a lower from or does that make
yeah,
it? Because now they're like, well, now we've got to replace impact windows if you know something
Right,
happens to your
right. Because
house.
we
So,
have windows.
it's a
huh?
discount. No,
It's a
it's
dis-
easy. It's a discount.
just
Go
like
ahead, Eileen.
you have the door that opens, right? That your door needs to open out instead of in. Those are little things that
Yeah,
like. Let's
yeah.
say you have an older home, and your door used to open in, it now needs to
Yeah.
open out. right? It's like that. It has to.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, yeah,
And also
yeah,
something about the
yeah,
garage, because I know there's people that
yeah.
have had to fix their
So
garage
different,
in their home.
and what's
What's happening? Hello?
I hear her.
oh,
Tanya.
yeah,
Tanya, we hear
sorry.
you.
Is
No,
it
it's okay.
mine?
We hear you perfectly
You
fine. Are
can
you
hear
okay?
me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, okay. Um,
When
yeah,
we
so
do
just
the,
sometimes like it's what you see and what you're educated on, right? So can you hear me?
yeah, we hear you.
Yes.
Okay. So sometimes it's just what you're educated on, right? It's big about impact windows, right? Like once you get impact windows, your insurance is going to go down. Da, 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 da. And so you know automatically, like I got those impact windows. I want to go ahead and lower my insurance. So it's just about education, about letting them know you have an alarm. You put an alarm after you close, right? When you did the policy before that, it didn't have an alarm. So you probably didn't call your insurance agent and said, "Hey, I got an alarm." ADT pulled up, of course, because they always pull up once you close on a home, to give you a package. So a lot of times you added that, you didn't call your agent to say, "Hey, I added that. Okay, let's add that you have an alarm. Let's get you those couple of dollars, taken off. You have impact windows, you just put them on. Good. Let's give you that discount." So those are the type of things I would say every year to every other year, you should have an open communication with your agent to
So
see,
Tanya, do
are
you
you,
guys
are
have
you,
a list, like a place we can send homeowners to get that list of enhancements to their home that will give them those discounts? Because we always talk about, oh, it's going to cost you more to cover because it's older roof, it's an older water heater, it's an older this, but I want to give the good side of, hey, this is the list of things that if you do to your home, it helps with the insurance as well. Is there a place for them to go for that?
I could create you a list. It's a simple list, the impact windows, impact doors, the alarm, just a cute little flyer that makes people
Yeah, I
happy.
think
And
that would be
they wanting
helpful.
discounts. Yeah, right. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yes.
everybody wants a discount.
Yes. I want a discount. Yes.
And it can be like you mentioned, I forgot about that. The alarm system
Mhm.
does give you a discount.
Mhm.
And like what you said, Eileen, if you just change your door and other things, whatever securities that you do have, or if you go tankless instead of a regular heater.
Yeah. Yeah. Just little things. Yep.
Are there any other smart features that give discounts? Because I know now everything is smart homes
No, it's just really about securing your home. So those
securing the
impact
home.
windows, yeah, the alarm, that's really it.
Okay.
So it's a lot. It's a lot. But if anybody could take anything out of that, it's just becoming a little more educated on the
Yeah.
homeowner's insurance, talking to their agent, and if they're buying a home with an older roof, is really understand, right, what you're taking on and make sure that you could take on that responsibility, right? So that's just the basics about insurance, to
Yeah.
know the
And
law.
as a realtor, what it does for us is inventory. It just makes it tough. Like I know that I have clients that they're really concerned about their mortgage payments, and
Mhm.
and that includes the insurance. So I've just been steering them away from homes that have these older roof, which makes it sad because that cuts down the inventory at least by half.
Yeah, yeah. And it's a true thing that happens to everybody, and we can't control it. Like, okay, the insurances might have gone down a little bit this year because there was no hurricane last year, so they're kind of giving that ease. But then what happens when the hurricanes come? Then they lift it up, and we know that a lot of times when you get into a home, you're like, okay, that's my mortgage payment. Perfect. That's what I could stay at, right? They're looking at the exact amount that they could pay, right?
Hmm.
Not that if it lifts up a little bit more, if the carriers come back, if there's a huge hurricane in Florida alone, right? These carriers are going to get that money back somewhere, right? They just had to pay all the stuff. So your premium is going to pay for it.
Hey.
It's going to skyrocket. So what do you do when your mortgage payment because of escrow went up 500 to even 1,000 more? That's happened. 1,000 more. You're like, I can't pay $1,000 a month for insurance, and that's a reality, right? So, kind of get flexibility and know carriers don't like South Florida. South Florida, like many things, it's the scam nation of every single thing, right? That there is credit cards, fraud, everything. So what happens is down here, there's some carriers that will. I had a meeting with a carrier yesterday, and I said, "Man, I said I cannot get you for South Florida. If I quote you for Orlando, if I quote you up north, you guys kill it. Like your premium is amazing. Just over here, you give me ridiculous amounts, right? Like ridiculous." And they're like, "Yeah, that's really not our money." They don't care. They're kind of like,
Yeah.
Maybe I'll shoot something out, and if your borrower wants to pay."
Yeah, that's the other issue. We lost a lot of people. A lot of carriers just pulled out of South Florida at all. They're like, we're not covering you.
We're not dealing that. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
lot of loss in their pockets,
Yeah.
as a company. So yeah. So we
Which is so unfortunate because, you live in a home for example, I'm going to get personal for a second here. I've lived in my home now for 30 years.
Mhm,
I've had two claims,
mhm,
right? Two different insurance companies, two claims in
mhm,
30 years. But
mhm,
I've been paying for 30 years
mhm.
and then you get dropped. Like, it's so unfair.
They drop you, and then the other carrier, right? A reality is
They ding you because you made a claim.
yeah, yeah, and it yeah, it's happened too where I'll tell you what part is not, it's even more not fair is that if you're a buyer that you haven't even owned a home, you haven't even done a claim on it, and then all of a sudden you purchase a home and they've done a claim like 2 years ago or whatever, you're all of a sudden your premium amount just went up because of their claim. People
The
don't understand.
previous owner's
Yeah,
claim.
previous owners, you know? And why? Because the insurance already says, oh, there's issues there. They did a claim,
Yeah.
X, Y, and Z. So
It's
because
unfortunate. It really
it's,
is. And there's like no way around it,
no,
No, yeah, sure.
I'm just the messenger, right? I just type up the numbers. That's all we could do, right? But educate the client is very, very important to know. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, you purchase a car, okay? I know we were talking about homes, but at the end of the day, you purchase a car, and then you go purchase the insurance. And you're like, wait, what? How much is the insurance? All that kind of stuff, right? And all these type of things. And insurance is for cars is the same thing. Like, have you had accidents? Have you gotten tickets? And then it's astronomical, right? But the same way what you're covered for cars, and because I see that more in auto, they tend to ask more questions, right? They want to know what they are covered for when they're driving out there, or if somebody hits them, or whatever the case is, right? You have that
Yeah, but the
that
mentality
conversation.
with that is you're in your car every day. It's always moving. Home is
Yeah,
sitting
Nobody
still,
ever thinks
stagnant. Yeah, so the
that
mindset's different. But that's
different.
why we do these series to kind of help people think about
Yeah.
things they hadn't thought about before and give them that aha moment, like, you know what? I didn't think of it that way. I need to go and look into that. So that's kind of why we do this series. And I'm really thankful that you came on today. And so we're going to put some information out there for existing homeowners and new homeowners coming into the homeowner world as to kind of how insurance is going to affect their home.
And I would love to have a conversation with anybody that wants to potentially purchase later on and say, hey, like what is the reality of insurance premiums, or what is the reality of this? I mean, it's just about conversations. So
Yeah.
letting everybody understand, and be prepared. So
Thank you,
what
Tanya. Go
yeah,
ahead.
when we do upload these videos, we always put the information, like my phone number, Kathia's phone number. Are you okay if we put your information and people can contact you just to check their current insurance with you? Is that something that you're willing?
absolutely.
Is there a cost if
Uh,
a customer calls you and wants to just run by you their
no,
insurance policy?
no, it's a free quote. And I always tell everybody, okay, so you only have to look at your deck page, your declarations page, right? And renewals should have started happening. Most renewals start at the beginning of the year, so you should have gotten already your renewal notice or depopulation, right, from Citizens, because Citizens does not want to be your forever carrier. They want to be the lowest carrier until they find somebody that's about 20%, right, is their thing. So if they do find it, they depopulate you and put you onto that. So if you receive those notices and you want me to see if that is the lowest amount and check, maybe, you do have a younger roof that you can move over to another carrier. Are you covered with flood or water cap or anything like that? I'll be glad to have that conversation. It's completely free and it'll give you peace of mind to know, do I have the lowest premium and am I fully covered to where I'm okay with it right now? So those two things are very important.
And another thing that I wanted to ask you just to make sure that we're doing this correct. I always tell the realtors when they're working with the buyer and as well with the buyer when they're about to do that and they're in their inspection period that they need to get us the wind and the 4-point.
Yes.
The inspection is extremely, extremely important, but the wind and the 4-point is what's going to determine the insurance for you to
Yes.
be able to shop for
Yes.
your insurance. Is that correct?
That is completely correct because what happens is that sometimes people say, "Can you give me a quote on a home?" And it's like, it's not based on the home, it's based on what the inspector is actually putting on a 4-point of what the roof age, the pipes and all that kind of stuff. So that's what the insurance carrier is looking at. They're not looking at the address and the outside of a home, right? They're looking more on the inside. So you can't give just a real quote on it. You could just say a quote like, I guess this is how much it would be if I play with the numbers and I put everything as perfect, right? But the reality is, will it be this or will it be, a little bit more or a little bit less based on whatever comes back? So it is important to not get a quote just on an address because that's just thrown out there, right? It is always based on your credibility as a person, right? So that's one, right? So credibility as a person. Have you had claims before? How's your credit rating as in insurance? Because there's a credit rating in insurance, right? It's kind of
A lot
behind the
of
scenes.
people don't know that.
Yeah, there's a credit rating that we have behind the scenes. It's not like they're pulling your credit or anything like that, but they're kind of looking at you like finance wise and everything, like we're insuring you, right? How good are you, with everything else in your life? What type of risk are you? Like, so if you have a better credit score, a better, all that kind of stuff in a credit rating, your premium is going to be a lot less than somebody else. So those factors come into place when you're really going to get that. So kind of getting a quote and an address, yeah, anybody could shoot something out, but it's not 100% realistic. 100% realistic is 4-point wind mitigation and your information.
Mm,
So,
good to know.
yes.
All right, so we're gonna wrap this up, this series here today. And again, I'm Kathia Green. You guys can find me on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook as Kathia Realtor. My number is 954-372-0270. I work with buyers, I work with sellers, and then of course, Charlie's Angels here. We've got Aileen. Aileen, let them know how they can reach you.
You can always reach me at 305-790-3143. You can also find me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and now we're on YouTube as well. And this video will
Yes,
be on
YouTube.
YouTube as well. And we'll also include Tania's information as well. But Tania, how can a consumer that's looking for insurance, how can they find you?
Well, you could call me directly, 786-351-8206. I always answer my phone. In case I'm on the other line, just send me a text. But if you do want me to review your current deck page that you have insured, make sure you send me a deck page and a copy of your driver's license to TaniaG@pninsurance.com. And in the subject area, you could just put quote, please, and I'll be happy to help.
We'll have this information in the post as well, so people can save it as well. Ladies, thank you again. Enjoy the rest of your day. Internet world out there, you guys enjoy your day. Hope you got some nuggets from this today, and we're all here to help you. Pick a number and call us. We'll make it happen. And if you don't remember any other ladies' numbers, just reach out to one of us and we'll make that connection.
Yeah.
Have a
Thank you
great night.
guys.
Bye.